Let's go back now to Uganda. Let's talk about the Bobi Wine factor. Bobi Wine, it's been a couple weeks now. He's still making headlines in Uganda. For the first time, he talked to the audience while here in a U.S. hospital. He communicated back to his people, talking about how, telling his side of the story. I'm sure you've had an opportunity to look through what he said. Your thoughts?
You know, I have to be very honest with you, Paul, that when I read that articulate, remarkably articulate communication from Bobi Wine, mind you, I have not been able to, to kind of like verify, to cross-check and verify whether or not, in fact, that was authentically a letter or a communication from Bobi Wine, even though I have been told reliably by some people who are very closest to him that that was indeed him. But as an independent journalist, what I need to do is to be able to verify that that is indeed from Bobi Wine. If in fact it is, and even if half of it is true, I hate to tell you this, Paul. I used to be in the Ugandan army. I was a paratrooper, among other things.
Are you a deserter? You deserted?
Well, whatever you may want to call it, at least I was able to separate from them and ended up, here under the political tall grass, and eventually worked my way to the extent and to the point that I have the opportunity, for example, to be able to sit with you here and breathe the same air and interact globally with the people who are interested in listening to some of the things that we actually do. It was not a particularly good experience under Idi Amin. And I was told that under Obote too, it was equally not a particularly good experience. I cannot talk about that because I never actually had an opportunity to live under Obote II type of experience. I was in the United States, going through universities and what have you. But given what I have been told, including, of course, you being one of those people who lived under Obote II, when I compare these two regimes or juntas or whatever, Idi Amin and Obote, and then look at the Yoweri Museveni regime, I hate to tell you this. If even half of what Bobi Wine he has alleged in that particular communication document, then I have to tell you that I agree with some who will say that the current government really is like the Idi Amin government and Obote II rolled into one.
But Shaka, are you surprised by those allegations? If they were true, you've seen what they have done to the other opposition leaders. For example, Kizza Besigye, the way they manhandled him and beat him up all the time.
To be very honest with you, I have to say that I agree with a guy called, for example, Alex Haley, the author of the best-selling book, Roots, and also an author, by the way, of the autobiography of a great man, Malcolm X, who once said, find something good in someone and praise it. So you can't say, for example, that for the last 32 years, Museveni has been in power. He has not done some good things. He has done some good things. But I think that when you actually put him on balance right now, he's increasingly looking like someone who probably has done very few good things. In fact, if I were him, to tell you the truth, I would figure out a way of exiting State House, passing on the baton to the younger generation, really, because his future is behind him. Anything that he has ever done good and whatever is probably behind him, to the extent that if he now continues to do some of these things that we are seeing in newspapers, in media and what have you, there are very few people who will even remember those few good things.
But there is a school of thought there that argues that President Museveni has done a remarkable job. He has brought stability in the country. He has grown the economy.
What do you mean by stability? You mean what they call Baganda, Prebakaturo?
People are able to sleep and go get on with their business, except for the recent months where they've had insecurities. But a lot of people credit President Yoweri Museveni for doing that. And he's hugely popular when you go to the rural areas. Isn't that...
Which particular rural area?
All over the country. That's why he's
Can
been...
you prove it?
I don't have any evidence to prove that, but I'm saying what
have
people
you ever
said
seen him in any rural area walking there independently without many security people, without bulletproof, vehicles and all that kind of stuff? I mean, if you are liked by your people, sincerely, then why do you have to protect yourself against them? They are not enemies. The last time I checked, these are your people. So you have to understand that the state, and I mean any state, is very powerful. It controls very, very important institutions, including the institutions of propaganda, including the institutions of the media. And so they can portray a very good image, a good picture. They can say whatever they want, especially because in the context of Uganda, sincerely, which is democratically challenged, his voice, or the voice of Ugandan authorities, is the last word.
How about, maybe let me go to a comment from Mohammed Ahmed Mansour. How do you feel about the disorderly conduct of the Ugandan police and the Ugandan military towards opposition members in Uganda?
I am not surprised because as Dr. Munini Mulera has ably written a very interesting article in today's Daily Monitor about defending Bobi Wine and some other artist who is a very, very staunch supporter. Some might call him, in fact, sycophant of Ugandan incumbent President Yoweri Museveni. This is a guy who is on record saying that his friend, his colleague, artist, Bobi Wine, probably does not really have those types of wounds that he claims to have, that he is faking it. I don't know whether he's a doctor, whether he's a nurse, but that's what he has said for the record, and he has really run into a lot of problems. I don't doubt for a second that Museveni is probably a good man. And Museveni has done good things to a lot of people. There's no question about it. But then there is also another issue of Museveni. As a matter of fact, a university schoolmate of Yoweri Museveni at what was called University College Dar es Salaam, which was part of then the University of East Africa, called Generali Urimwengu, who happens to be a lawyer to boot, and also an acquaintance of mine in the sense that whenever I actually go to Dar es Salaam, I find some time to link up with him so that we can exchange some social amenities. He wrote a very interesting article in the East African, and he said, if you look at the Yoweri Museveni of 1986, the revolutionary Yoweri Museveni, with the Yoweri Museveni beginning with like 2001 up to today, that these two individuals would actually have to fight. Because in his view, the revolutionary Museveni died long time ago. These are his words, Ulimwengu, not mine. And what we are dealing right with now is like a reactionary type of Yoweri Museveni. And there's a lot of evidence to put.
Shaka, you talked about, you rightly quoted the famous Alex Haley saying that you look for something good about somebody and praise it. What's the one thing you can praise about President Yoweri Museveni? What has he done? Because there are a lot of people who think he's a good guy, even though we see, on the contrary, his security guys doing other things. It could be that these security guys are errant, they are wrong guys, security guys doing certain things. Could that be possible?
Well, I think that you have to give him credit, for example, for having the confidence, having the guts, for example, to reject the dictatorship of his predecessors. He rejected that dictatorship and was able to gather the courage and the will to fight that particular dictatorship. The only problem I have with him is that having actually fought and defeated them, it was simply like winning a battle. He did not win the war. because he could only win the war, for example, if he had become different. Unfortunately, when you look at the evidence, I am not a lawyer. I never went to law school. So I am eminently probably underqualified to convict President Yoweri Museveni because I'm not a judge. But if you look at the evidence that is available and that even people, in fact, who happen to be blind could actually see it, if you took that evidence in the court of law, he probably would be convicted of being a dictator.